Okay, Bowden, are we up and running yet? One more minute? All right. Welcome. We're live? Okay. All right, so we're going to get started here. Welcome to our Master Guide training today. We are going to be working on two honors today, the Cultural Diversity and Appreciation and Temperance. So we're going to start by looking at our homework review. So we got to get all of our background checks done that we should have already got done. Most people are nodding yes, so that's good. Our reflective essay paper on what does it mean to be a master guide. We need to get that. Some of you have gotten me to sign that off. I've read them. If you haven't gotten that written and shown to either myself, Brandon, Roseanne, or my wife, then please get that shown to us so we can get that signed off. Time is ticking away fast. Wyoming is coming. Got to read a book about Adventist leadership. Brandon's had one up here. He's kind of been floating around, renting out. Got it back there. Then read the book Education by Ellen White. Got to get through that one. Another beautiful way to do it is audiobook while you're driving. You can cover a lot of books that way. Then there's the Encounter series. We got to get through that. That also doubles as your personal devotional time that you need if you don't already have a devotional going. There's, I think it was one or two more requirements needed to finish the sanctuary honor, so we need to make sure that gets finished up. And then there was the last requirement for the Adventist Heritage honor of going to Battle Creek and finishing that up. Then there's the basic staff training. We went through that. We need to get everybody signed off on everything that they attended. Our fitness tracking. I haven't seen any fitness tracking programs come up for a signature yet, so I take that back. I might have seen one. But we do need to make sure that we're doing our fitness tracking. And then we need to finish up the storytelling honor. We need to volunteer for our children's stories at church. We need to do worships for our Pathfinder Club. Whatever way we need to get our storytelling done, we need to make sure we get that done. If you need a copy of the checklist, I still have a copy here. We can get some photocopies made and get that passed out. All right, and the last time we did the personal evangelism honor, and there was a question regarding all of the stuff we do as staff members in clubs. Does it count towards our personal evangelism honor? And Pastor Harris says, absolutely. So, easy done. So we'll get that signed off as well. All right, so let's get started on the first portion of the Cultural Diversity and Appreciation Honor. So requirement number 1 says to define culture, cultural diversity, and appreciation. I think that's important because even though this honor is relatively old, when you talk about culture and cultural appreciation and diversity nowadays, it has a very different connotation and oftentimes negative. So let's bring it back to what it's supposed to be. So I happened to find online this culture wheel, which I think really embodies the healthy aspect of cultural diversity and appreciation. So our first word was culture. So culture means the customs, arts, social institutions, and achievements of a particular nation, people, or other social group. That's culture. The next one is cultural diversity. The existence of a variety of cultures or ethnic groups within a society. And appreciation is the recognition and enjoyment of the good qualities of someone or something. So to recognize and appreciate, to enjoy the good qualities of a culture is cultural appreciation. Leave that up for a minute while people are still jotting it down. I saw a couple camera phones out, which is always a good idea. So looking at that culture wheel, everything points towards everything else. It's all this nice, cohesive circle. And if we simply appreciate the good qualities of other people and their culture, cohabitation is peaceful, theoretically. But we're all still human. It's all faulted, and some people just like to fight. All right, ready to move on? Almost, okay. No hurry. I had the easy job. Make the slideshow. Cut and paste. I didn't have to type all this out. Okay. We'll pause just for a second because we got a few coming in yet that can take a quick picture on their phone, and then we'll move forward. So you're fortunate this is the very first requirement of the Cultural Diversity Honor, so you haven't missed much of anything. Except for, I will go back and say, we had talked last time about the Personal Evangelism Honor. I did get in touch with Pastor Harris, and he said everything we do as staff qualifies. Easy done. Yes. I looked at that going, wow, how am I going to get you guys to do all that on top of what you already did? That's ridiculous. And he said, absolutely not. It is absolutely part of what we do. So, so this is the first one, define the three: culture, cultural diversity, and appreciation. And I'd found this cool little circle that just really nicely embodies the good qualities of culture. So we'll move on to the next one. Define stereotype and identify how you may have stereotyped people in the past. Another word that gets a negative connotation. So we're going to go back and do it justice. So the dictionary definition of to stereotype is a widely held but fixed and oversimplified image or idea of a particular type of person or thing. Now here's where it gets controversial. Is stereotyping good or bad? Anybody care to venture a guess on good or bad? Is stereotyping good or bad? It is. It can be both. So an example of good stereotyping would be risk assessment. You know, if you're walking through Chicago, you got some risk assessments to be making. A survival situation, like if you see a large cat with orange and black fur, what's your risk assessment? That's a stereotype. You have stereotyped that cat as dangerous. It's kind of broad and oversimplified, but effective. Hospitality and thoughtfulness. If you have someone coming over to your house that is of a different nationality, there may be some cultural differences that, well, we've seen it at the World Camporee. We've had people come in that are defecating in the shower because that's what they do in their home country. So it's something we have to take into consideration, and it is a form of good stereotyping, is because we're looking at the situation and trying to improve the situation. Now, examples of bad stereotyping is the discrimination that we see taking place a lot. And this might be mildly controversial. Affirmative action. If you're familiar with that, what that is, it's people being judged on the color of their skin, whether or not they should have a place in employment. A certain number of certain color people have to be employed. I think it's garbage. We really need to go back to what Martin Luther said. You know, we should be judged by the content of our character, not the color of our skin. So if you've earned the position, you've earned the position. Who cares what color you are? Let's go back. Let's not do what's being done now. So I have a game to work with good stereotyping. So I have 4 pictures I'm going to show you, and I want to know whether or not you would want to approach this person. Okay, so interactive. So the first person on the screen. Anybody want to take a stab at approach or not approach? Well, let's just look at him. You see what's written on his chest? Okay, might be a little small. MS-13. So this is a, I believe, Mexican gang member that have been notorious for coming across the border and causing all kinds of problems. Not someone you want to meet on the street. So this is going to be kind of someone you see and want to avoid. Okay? He may have reformed, but I think that was a mugshot. So at that time that picture was taken, I'm avoiding him. What about this guy? Clean-cut military guy, pretty respectable. I actually know a guy who, I know quite a few military members, but an active duty right now, he is, I believe, a captain in the Army. Good guy, went to church with him. Yeah, really good guy. So he's the kind of person you'd want to approach. So what about this military member? He's North Korean. Probably not going to want to approach. So yes, he's clean-cut military, but you got to do a little more investigation before you just blanket statement this guy. Last one about this guy. Scary. This happens to be Hafthor Bjornsson. He is a 6'9" Hafthor Bjornsson. He's 6'9" from Iceland. He is 2018 World's Strongest Man. Real nice guy. Really good guy to talk to. Scary looking. I don't know, I can't imagine many of you, if any, have actually seen Game of Thrones, but he plays the character called the Mountain, who is quite homicidal. So he looks scary, but he's not. He actually has a wife and I think 3 kids now. At least 2 for sure, but maybe 3. So you can't always judge a book by its cover. Sometimes you gotta do a little investigation and not just pull the oversimplified image. All right, so requirement number 3. Study the following Bible texts and answer the questions. So Corinthians 9:20 says, "And unto the Jews I became as a Jew, that I might gain the Jews, and to them that are under the law, as under the law, that I might gain them that are under the law." So the question regarding this text says, what does this text explain to the importance for a Christian to have a cultural diversity awareness? Does the handout have a space for you to write that down? Okay. So we'll leave this up and let you guys get your answers down. Everyone ready to go on to the next question? All right, still in category 3, but the next verse is Galatians 3:27 and 28, and that reads, "For as many of you as have been baptized into Christ have put on Christ. There is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free, there is neither male nor female, for ye are all one in Jesus Christ." So the question for that verse is, what does this text say about all who are in the family of Christ? move forward? Okay. The next one is Ephesians 2, verse 14. And that reads, "For he is our peace, who hath made both one, and hath broken down the middle wall of partition between us." The question regarding this verse is, what should be the result of accepting Jesus Christ into our lives? Who do you plan to apply this? How? A bit of a distance there. How do you plan to apply this message to your everyday life? This is a fairly short honor. There are 4 requirements. So we are going to take a short break, but we're going to start the break with our dad joke. What side of a turkey has the most feathers? Any guesses? Set? Oh, what side of the turkey? How about the outside? All right, we'll do about a 15-minute break. We're going to get a couple of things rearranged up here, and then we'll be back to do the last portion of the Cultural Diversity Honor. It's going to be a panel discussion. Okay.
He thought it was next week or whatever.
Okay.
There's, Eda Merritt is on her way.
Okay.
And he was wondering if there was somebody else here that could, and I don't know if that lady back there would do it. Oh. And there's nobody else here left. All the Korean people left. Oh, okay. No, I mean the lady in the second row forward over there with the glasses. Oh,
maybe, there we go. Yep, there, I'm coming through now. You want to check
I
yours
think
too?
so.
All right. Okay, welcome back. Our panel is been dwindled for one reason or another. So it is just Kim and I here. So let us start out with the first question. So let's just jump right in. Okay? So the first question I have is, please tell us your full name.
So which name? I have two names. My Korean name is Kyung-hee Kim, and Kim is my family name. But when I moved to U.S., when we pronounce our name, we say our last name first and first name last. So my official name in Korea is Kim Kyung-hee. But people is having a hard time calling my first name Kyung-hee. So just call me Kim. So I became a Kim. And then when I got married, I followed my husband's last name. So my American name is Kim Inox.
Okay, thank you. There's actually a lot of different nationalities that their last name is a amalgamation of their family names. I know my descendancy is from Norway, or the Vikings, and it's so one guy I know, his name is Bjornsson, means son of Bjorn. But when he got married, she didn't take his last name because she's not Bjorn's son. She kept her maiden name. So there's another guy I know, his last name is Grunt. He's from Romania. And his wife's last name is Gruntova because it's of Grunt. It's Grunt's wife. So I like how that.
Yeah, it is very similar in Korea too. When we get married, the women don't change the last name. They keep their family name as it is. But since I moved to America, was when I get married and that I, follow my husband's name. But I keep actually my Korean first name as my middle name. So it's the Kim Kyung-hee Inox. So it just sounds kind of, fluent to myself and also to the American, I guess.
Okay, thank you. So does your name have any special meaning or significance in your culture? So my name is Matthew, and in Greek that means gift of God. And my son is Stephen. His name is actually both of his grandfathers. So my dad's name is Steve, and my wife's dad's name is James, so we named him Steve and James after the grandfathers.
So in Korean, majority of last names are either Kim, Lee, or Park. Those three names are probably 70% of the whole population. And then there's a few different last names. It comes later on. They originated from China mainly because we were influenced by the Chinese, dynasty. So when we name our kids, in tradition, we use the Chinese characters. So my name, Kyung-hee, is in Chinese character is capital and joy. So it's a capital of joy. So that's what I call the meaning of my name, which is wonderful. And then when you have a sibling, in the family genealogy, they actually follow the same syllable of the word. So usually the Korean names are two syllable besides your family name. So mine is Kyung-hee, right? So Kyung is my generation's common mutual name syllable. So my brother follows Kyung and then the different syllable of the name. So his name is Kyung-dong. But from my generation, somehow, it's not so much traditional way of naming children, so they kind of choose a different way. But when I look at my dad's generation, they all share the name Byung as a middle syllable. So my dad's name is Byung-guk, and then the next one is Byung-jin, Byung-gap, Byung-yong, like that. So they all share the same part of it. But then the generation above, they alternating it. So my grandparents, they all sharing the last syllable. So like Jin Young, their syllable is Young. So Jin Young, Ha-young, Kyung-young, something like that. So just based on your genealogy, which part of the name is a common sharing name, then you can actually track back what generations that you are from the origination. So I'm the 28th generation of my ancestor, the first line, and my parents are 27. So if you meet any Kim's family, obviously Kim is one of the biggest names, so there are just so many different branches. So my family branch, and if you meet somebody who has the middle name as a Byung, then I know that person, no matter how old they are in my dad's generation. So you can guessing that way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is really cool. So, might seem a silly question, but which country are you from, North or South Korea?
I'm from South Korea.
South Korea, okay. And what is the current population of South Korea? Do you happen to know?
I happen to know because I Googled it. So I Googled it last night, and the most recent census says in 2021, the South Korean population is 51.740,000. Yeah, so it's about 52 million is the total population.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, anytime. Yep. Yeah. Okay, so the history-wise, it goes all the way back to like 4,000 years ago. It is similar to some sort of biblical story, but our ancestor Kim, especially, I don't remember exactly when, but the very original ancestor is called Dangun, and we have a calendar following from his birth to up to now. So the calendar is now about 4,300 something calendar year now. But then when he started it, like he was the son of God, son of the God or the kingdom of the heaven or something. So I don't know how we can link that story to the Adam and Eve, but so when he started it, and then he married a woman who was originally a bear, but then the bear wanted to be a human so bad, so she was assigned to, she prayed so hard, and the God told her that if you can stay in the cave and eat only this mountain vegetable and garlic for 100 days, and you will turn to a woman. And she did that, and she became a woman. So then the Son of God fall in love with her, and then they got married and had a son, and that's the first generation of the Korean, family line, I guess.
Wow.
So that's how it starts, and then the first, the Kim's family came from there, and then later there is another one hatched from the egg, and that's the Parks family. And then there was the Lee's family. I don't know the Lee's family's history, so those are the very beginning of the Korean history. And there is a 3 big country, divided in the Korean peninsula. So that's the Kim Lee Park started it. That's why, But then at the beginning of the year, I don't believe that Korean actually follow the family names. They just call by the name. But then it became maybe the Chinese influence, and we start to having the family name, and then the most popular ones are Kim Lee Park, and then the other names come in later. That's not necessarily anymore, but when it was originated, yes, right.
Okay. So what is the official language of South Korea?
Hangul is the Korean word. Hangul is alphabetical. So we have 20, I forgot that 27, the vowels and consonants. So then when you combine those vowels and consonants and it become a syllable. So it's very similar to alphabet. So a lot of people who learn Korean language and they easily pick up, but it's kind of hard to speak, or because we have so many different variation of the word. Like in English, we have, let's say have or head or has, the three forms, that's it, right? But then in Korea, there's so many different ways to say have. So that's the hard part, but Hangul is the official language.
All right. Yes,
Han,
into your microphone.
H-A-N. Oh, H-A-N. Excuse me. Gul, the G-U-L. It doesn't actually, sound is not in English alphabet, so it's kind of hard to pronounce, but Hangul is the official language.
Okay. Now, what type of government is your country have?
So South Korea, the official name of the country is the Republic of Korea. We have a very similar to, it's actually the same as how the American government are consist of. So we have the government branch, the legislator and administration and the judiciary. So the power is separated.
Okay, separation of powers.
Yep.
All right. What is the most prominent religion of South Korea?
I wanted to say like Christianity because we hear that a lot, but I also looked it up and I Googled, and 2021 census says the Presbyterian is about 17%, and Buddhism 16%, and Catholic is 6%. So the rest people are either not believe in God or any form, or they just claim as a Buddhist normally, but they are not really going to the temple and doing the ritual. Similar to my family, my parents, when I asked, what's your religion? They said Buddhist, but I've never seen them going to the temple. But people in general, because in the Korean culture, the dominant religion was Buddhism or the Kung Fuism. But the religious background is mainly the Buddhism, so then they just say that, yeah, I'm Buddhist, but they don't really exercise their belief.
Okay, almost a Buddhist in name only.
Right.
Right, okay. So let's go into Pathfinders. Are there many Pathfinders in South Korea?
So this was the hardest question to answer because I myself discovered the Pathfinder, when I joined the church. So I couldn't find the answers, but I believe there's, a lot of Pathfinders in our church community.
Okay.
If we can define the Pathfinder as, our group, but I can't tell the exact name or number.
Right. So that might be a fun experiment for Wyoming to see if we can find some South Korean Pathfinders and see if they know the answer to that question. And also trade pins. It's a great icebreaker. Okay, so let's go to one of my favorite topics, food. So please tell us your favorite food from your country, your ethnicity.
So nowadays, K-pop, K-culture is kind of popular, so you probably hear at least one or two main dishes. But since I became vegan, I don't eat any more bulgogi, obviously, but that's one of the popular one to grow up. Bibimbap, that's the different, vegetables with the spicy sauce in a rice bed. So bibimbap is one of my favorite. And another one, gimbap, that's like a sushi roll. Some people say sushi roll, but gimbap is also my favorite. And the most popular or the significant Korean food, probably kimchi. And kimchi is the one. And in my case, I like the veggie pancake or the tteokbokki. That's a little rice stick, but then very spicy and sweet sauce. It's like a kids food, but very comforting.
All right. And so I know again, I'm Dutch, so my food of choice is meat and potatoes. Very plain, very minimal seasoning, I'm a plain kind of person. All right, so are there any foods that you have found it difficult to obtain here that are relatively easy to obtain in South Korea?
So, Grand Rapids is pretty, it's metro area, so there's a few different Asian groceries. So almost everything that I like, I can get it there. But, something that I cannot find easily is like the Korean rice cake. We call it as a tteok. We only make in a special occasion, like somebody's birthday or weddings and like that. And this is it's hard to make it at home, but my church moms, they mastered their skill and they do it at home. So it's wonderful, but it's very hard to find around this town. And then another one is like some different mountain vegetable that we enjoy. One of them is like fern. We call it kusari. It's a fern, but we love eating fern, but not obviously. There's a special way to treat it. You cannot just pick it and eat it. But that's something very hard to find it because it is wild vegetable. We call it vegetables, but people in America, they say that's just a wild plant, and we cannot, just pick the wild plants from the state park and things like that. So it's kind of hard to pick, hard to find.
All right. So now, for me and my family, my wife makes the best homemade macaroni and cheese. Now, I know other people have, preferences, like their mom makes something the best or whatever. Who in your family is the best at making your favorite meal?
Me. Because I'm the only Korean in my family. My kids have Korean, but they like Korean food, certain kind. My husband doesn't really like spicy food, any fermented food, so nobody's sharing the kimchi with me. So I'm the only one making the kimchi, and that's one of my favorite. And then spicy noodle, that's something I really indulge time to time, and then I go to my church mom, and then she can make it for me.
Perfect. Yeah, my wife is such a phenomenal cook. I can cook, but I try to stay out of the kitchen and let her do her thing. So what are the top 3 differences you have found between your culture and the American culture?
This was a very good topic because, I was asking my other church members as well. So I got some pretty good insight. And the first thing is when we greet somebody, we always bow. And it's not only Korean culture, I think, the Japanese does a similar way. So, but nowadays I see some Americans also, bowing their head when they meet somebody, but I don't know. But that's very like Korean culture. Another is we call it in America, we call name. It's like, Joe Smith or James William or whatever. But in Korea, we never ever call their name. So we call our relatives by their position in the family. So like, uncle. So in America, there is, mother's side, dad's side, doesn't matter. It's your the dad's brothers, and it's all uncle, right? But then in Korea, we had all different names. And also, it is female's perspective and the male's perspective, and then a different name of the uncle, and different name of aunt. So we call by their, position of the family, but we never call their name. So that's the huge difference. And even in an workplace, we don't call by the name, we call by their position at work. So like, you know, what do you call it? You're like a senior level of manager or the manager or the president. We call their title, but not their name. So it's very different culture in Korea. And then another one, mainly in Korea, that we take our shoes off when we come in. And then we do not have, I mean, nowadays it's very modernized, you know, ever since the Korea, after the war and all that, and many culture influenced by the America, so we have a different style of living, but, you know, we used to have just a table in the middle of the main family room, and we don't have a chair. So basically, we're sit around the table and eat. So it's very common to, you know, the kneel down and, you know, fall down and all that. So we don't, you know, even we don't really sleep on a bed. We have a blanket, like a futon kind of thick blanket. So we put it down and then we fold it every morning, and that's kind of routine. And then at the meal table, children never ever eat first until the head of house pick their, you know, whatever the utensil and start eating. So we always have to wait at the table until my dad comes or my grandpa comes, and when they start to eat, and we can eat. And some extreme, they even have a separate table for, you know, grandpa and dad in a separate table, and the rest is another table, but that's very extreme. But, you know, here in America, feed the kids first is always a priority. This is interesting. When we go to somebody's house, when we were invited to somebody's house, we always bring a small gift. So that's the Korean customs. And whenever you receive something from somebody, we always give in return whatever that is. So that's the custom.
All right. So what are 3 customs and traditions from your culture that you have continued in your family here?
I guess the first thing is to take shoes off whenever you come in. You know, shoes are not allowed. You're not walking around with your shoes. No. And then eating kimchi is still, you know, even though my husband doesn't like it, but I still make it for myself. And another thing that we continue doing it is every birthday we eat the seaweed soup. So in Korea, when you're born, especially the mother, you know, lose a lot of blood and things like that. So the seaweed has, you know, rich in irons, and so it kind of replenishes the loss. So the mom always have to eat that seaweed soup. So that become a tradition, a kind of celebration of your birth. So every birthday we eat seaweed soup, and that's something that we still carry in our family. So everyone that we eat seaweed soup.
Nice.
Yeah.
We are born here at 0, and 365 days from now I turn 1.
Correct.
You were born at 1, and 365 days you turn 2.
That's a very good point, right? So yes, when you're born as a 1-year-old because we count the time that you're in mother's womb. So when you're born in 2024, like let's say today, that you're already 1-year-old. And then the next year at January 1st, when we are celebrating it, and you say, oh, now I turned to 2. That's how they count. However, they actually changed it this year, from this year. Yes. So now we are counting American way. Yeah.
Did they actually subtract?
No, I don't think so. It's not subtract. It's not an official age. It's still we count by the days of as of your birthday. So like, you know, 365 days, you become officially 1. in an official document. But when we're just saying, hey, yeah, I'm now 2 years old because now it's the new year. So, but as of this year, they changed it. We don't count it that way anymore. But that's kind of joke when I come to U.S. because my age. When I say, well, so like my husband is like, how old are you? Is the Korean age or the American age?
Yeah, my grandmother would like that. She's always tried to be younger than she actually was. I think she was 21 for 4 decades.
Yeah. Yeah, my kids think that I'm 27, so I'm just leave it that way.
Okay, so please tell us what clothing is customarily worn in Korea and how it differs, if at all, from what is worn here in America.
Nowadays, I mean, it's just a similar clothing, like, everybody wear the same way, but the Korean costume is called hanbok, and it just look like this. And interestingly, today is the Lunar New Year, and most of the Asian countries celebrate the Lunar New Year. The lunar calendar by today is actually January 1st. So, I shouldn't wear my Korean costume, but, since we are here, any calendar, we cannot find the lunar calendar because in Korea, all calendar has a lunar calendar underneath as well. The every days, we see the lunar days as well, so we know it's easily trackable. So some people actually celebrate their birthday based on the lunar calendar too. So my dad's birthday, for example, is July 20th, but in lunar calendar. And every year that I have to calculate it when is this year is his birthday. It's very inconvenient, but some people still follow it. And so this is a hanbok, as the traditional costume we normally wear on, the New Year or the wedding and the kids' first birthdays, but that's pretty much it.
Okay. So what is something that is considered common courtesy in Korea that you think we should adopt here in America?
I don't know. What do you think? I guess taking shoes off at home is good habit because you never know what you step on, especially like this time of the year. My backyard is mud with maybe dog poop all over, but I don't want them to track those things in the house. So maybe taking shoes off at home. But I see a lot of American family does nowadays take shoes off when they come in the house. And this is something one of my church members says that like in Korea, even though you haven't notified that you're going to visit, let's say your friends or family member, and you just show up, but you're always welcome. And they always offer something to eat. Don't know why, but we always ask, did you have dinner? Or even though we know it's like after 7, 8, or maybe 9, then for sure the person had a dinner, but we always ask and always bring something to eat. And sometimes like you're kind of shy to, even though you didn't have a dinner, you're shy to ask, but we know that, the person will offer me something so I can just show up, hungry. So, when you guys just show up in my house, then don't worry about it. You'll be always fed pretty well. And I just mentioned that, but, when we visit to somebody, especially for the first time, then you always bring something. So we don't just show up with empty hand, and I guess in our custom, if you show up with empty hand, that's kind of insulting, or so we bring like a little plant or something that you can use at home, like toilet paper, for example, like something that anybody can use it. So just the gesture of that appreciation that you were inviting me to your house. I think that's about it.
I like the feed your guest when they show up.
Yeah.
I think that's the one I would really push to have. Many people know that I enjoy food and eating, and so that would be the one I would say should be the one. All right, thank you so much. Do we have any
Oh,
other questions from the audience?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That is one thing, yeah. Respect to the elder is really deep in our root. So, I mean, that's the one thing that we are not used to call somebody's by name because we always, like using a Mr. or Mrs. or, giving a highest possible, I don't know, the acclamation. But yes, like if you are sitting in the bus and then you see the grandma or grandpa is coming up, then you see everyone is kind of stand up and giving their seat. And if you don't, then what a bad education that you have. Yeah, that's a very good point. Child, yes, child, yeah, we call by their name, yes. Since 2006, so it's been almost 20 years. Yeah.
When you go to Korea, I've been to many different countries, and Americans have a really good name in this country, and an okay name in this country, and a horrible name in
Yeah.
this country. What is the reception of an American in Korea?
So American in general are welcome in Korea because majority nowadays, Korea opens to many different countries, and we are having similar problem like racial discrimination towards the other Asian country because we have a lot of immigration from like Vietnam or China or those other South Asian countries. So it became a social issue about that, how we treat those people compared to, let's say, Caucasian. So generally, Caucasians are pretty welcome, and but then a lot of Koreans think as soon as they see the Caucasian or the lighter skin color, and they think that you're American, but it could be European, and it could be South American, so oftentimes that can be kind of uncomfortable as Caucasian who comes from different nationality, not America, but in general they're welcome.
And then you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but the sense of, we just see the political side of North Korea being your neighbor. When you grew up in Korea, is there this looming North Korea is right there, or do you not really talk about
Not at
what
all.
is it like to have North Korea as your neighbor?
So there is no tension or fear whatsoever. None. Even like when I started living in America, if I hear some news about the North Korea, doing their nuclear bomb testing or whatever, and then I got immediately nervous about it. But I would call my parents, and they say, "Oh, nothing. We are just doing our jobs and things like that." So it's just outsider's perspective because we're not really in that situation.
You also, when you're there, you think, this is North Korea, just
Right,
whatever.
right. We understand the dynamics so much, but there's still use that as a propaganda that continue, not supporting or, based on your political view, that some people 100%, not supporting North Korea, and then some people still believe that we are the same, the brothers and sisters, so therefore we need to support them economically. But then some people has very skeptical, whatever the aid that we provide is used for the military support and things like that. But, even though that's true, but we believe there's still some impact to the people in North Korea. Yeah. It is still obligation for any man who's age 18 and higher. has a duty to serve the country. Used to be like 3 years, and now I believe it's 1 year and 4 months. And they get to keep their cell phone, and they get paid a lot more. They can even contact, I mean, they're basically using their social medias and all that. So a lot of young people nowadays, young men, are actually volunteer to go to the military service instead of, like before, there was a lot of issue, social issue, avoiding the military service because they feel like their young age of 1.5 years or 2 years, 3 years will be totally doomed. But now, it's so hard to find the jobs and things like that, and they feel like going to the military service may be the way of, just kind of maybe avoiding the current situation. And then they also get paid pretty well, and they save their money to start fresh kind of thing. Just creating a seed money in the military, and then they, do their job search right after.
Yeah, my wife's brother did that. He was in the Marines, and he was over in Afghanistan for, I think it was 3 tours, and he got combat pay, and he just kind of stockpiled it.
Yeah.
So when he came out of the military, he was ready to
Right.
do whatever he wanted to do. Any other questions from our audience? All right, and I want to thank you again, Kim, for coming on up. Really appreciate it. And we're going to take another 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll finish up with the Temperance Honor.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Where do you need to be for Gillette? Done. You have to complete the whole thing. What I always did was I would take every Sabbath, I would take a chapter of Desire of Ages, and I would read the whole chapter and all the corresponding verses. Excuse me. So it was easier for me to get through that way. Plus, when it's broken out into little days like that, it's hard to follow the story. So if you want to spend the afternoon and do a chapter or two, or however you want to break it up, but then I found that was the best way for me to follow the story. That's what I did. Right. Yeah, you completed everything. I want to say it was 6 to 8 months, somewhere. This was back in 2006, so I don't really remember all that well. But that's what I know. I know what I did was I tried reading just like the 1 or 2 at a time, and I couldn't get anywhere with it. I couldn't wrap my mind around the story. So I went with a way that I could actually read the story. That's fine. Yes, ma'am. Why? It's never too early to sign. okay. Okay. I don't see why not. I mean, read or listen. And yeah, the thing with this is, like with Clark, he started in 92, you know, and we're finishing it up. So I'm not as tightly bound by, okay, well, you have to have it done in 3 to 5 years. We're trying to be very, you sure can. Still your pen here. All the encounter series? Yep. Mm-hmm. Today's date is 2, what's the date? Yep. All right, and then encounter series, so. I think that's choose one of the following, so that's here. Okay. Yep, that's great. Right. So 3 of the following were backpacking, camping, and camping, and camping. Okay, yep. All 4 campings. Well, yep, all 4 campings. Okay, and that's right here, I think. I completed the following. It happens today because I see it on your sash. And a lot of this is just that. It's like, okay, we're supposed to do camping skills honors, but if you've already done them, a lot of this will say like, if not previously earned. So. Right. Right, that's the other one. It's like, what? Yes, sir. I would say just listen, because you're going to find out that if you're a baptized member, we've already covered all of it. So the very first couple slides is what I'm really trying to get across as far as information. The rest of it is just going over the requirements because it's covered in the baptismal vows. Oh. Incoming. Oh, I fail. I'm no quarterback. I'm the lineman. I don't remember what time. I know I said 10 minutes, but I don't remember what time it was. There is not, and that, like so I didn't actually do the handout because the temperance honor is essentially for kids, and as adults we've gone through the baptismal classes that covers it all. So this is kind of an overview saying this is what the honor requires. Do a few of the requirements, like you got to know what the definition of certain words are, and I went a little too far because I like knowledge, and the rest of it's just we've already covered this in baptismal vows. So I'm not that worried about this particular honor. In fact, I think I got this honor when I was friend or companion. So it's usually one of those that most people have already, and why bother? And I did look up on the list of honors to teach for this. this is a required. This isn't one of those optional ones, so gonna cover it, get it out of the way. It's another one of those show up and have an easy honor. All right, looks like everyone's here, and let's see. He texted me. That was Roseanne. Brandon's last text came through. Nope, not that one. All right, so I guess we'll get going again here. Make sure our live stream is still doing well. So we're going to get started on temperance. So the mic has been on for a little bit, so most people have heard me say, we're going to cover this quickly, so most of us already have this honor. I got it early on in Pathfinder's like friend or companion year, I don't remember which. It's been a few years. So we'll use it as a refresher course, and the requirements are for kids. It's covered by our baptismal vows pretty much. So we'll just go over it real quick and then we'll call it a day. So first requirement is, what is the definition of temperance? So I went online and I found the definition and I did a copy and paste. So the first definition, you know how dictionaries are, there's like a 1, 2, sometimes 3, 4, and 5, depending on. So the first one was abstinence from alcoholic drink. The second one, the quality of moderation or self-restraint. Can you tell what my mind did? I looked at abstinence and moderation. Those are not synonyms. So how can two words that mean something different be the definition for another word? So I looked them up. So now we all know basically what those words mean, but I like to go a little bit too far. So abstinence is the fact or practice of restraining oneself from indulging in something, typically alcohol. Okay? So it's a no factor with abstinence. Well, then what about moderation? What does moderation mean? It's the avoidance of excess or extremes, especially in one's behavior or political opinions. So how is it that two different words meaning two different things are the definition for temperance? So I went backwards. I found the original meaning for the word temperance. It's back into the mid-14th century, meaning self-restraint, forbearance, moderation. So how did a word that originally meant moderation get tacked on with the very first meaning being abstinence from alcohol? How did that happen? That was the Prohibition. So back in the 1820s, certain Puritan groups started the campaign against alcohol. And by the turn of the century, there were a few organizations that were very well established and were pushing for nationwide prohibition. Some states had already made their own rules about alcohol and consumption, but there was one particular group, it was a women's group, I don't know the actual name or the acronym for it, but it was a women's group that claimed that alcohol was the major reason behind family destruction and the decay of the family. So in 1920, the 18th Amendment was passed in Congress, making it a nationwide prohibition that lasted 13 years. they decided after all the crime and violence coming from the prohibition that they were going to repeal it and put restrictions on age and all that. So that is when the definition for temperance went from moderation to abstinence in alcohol. So just a little history lesson as to why that means what it does now. So I could have just totally skipped that first one and said it was irrelevant, but I'm of the mind that when you see something and you don't necessarily agree with it, you need to understand why it's there. So the analogy I've heard a lot is there's a wall in the middle of the woods somewhere. It has one end here at this tree and it ends at that tree over there. Why is it there? It seems to serve no purpose. You have a couple options. You can either walk away and just say, well, that was stupid. You can destroy the wall and clear that path, or you can say, why was it built there in the first place? You may still destroy it after you find out why, or you can find out a cool little bit of history, like that might have been a part of a wall that Civil War soldiers hid behind or something. And you might dig into that wall a little bit and find a musket bullet, you know. So I'm the kind of person that likes to look at this and go, why is there some discrepancy here? So that is why. The original meaning is moderation. So we're going to go into the requirements of the honor that we all know we've gone through. So this one is memorize and sign the temperance pledge. That is the temperance pledge. Okay? But we've all taken the baptismal vow. So if you would like to write that down and memorize it and put your hand up and pledge it, be my guest. But I believe the baptismal vow covers any temperance pledge. So the next requirement, more memorizing, which again, we went through the baptismal vows. We went through the whole studies. So this is another one where you can take a picture or write them down and do your own study at home. It's actually a good thing to do in developing maybe a Pathfinder Club worship. Hit some of these and do a temperance worship of sorts. And then you can look into your storytelling checklist and see if it qualifies for any of your stories you gotta tell. Let's see, character building story, obedience, kindness, and love might fit there. Health and fitness story, hey, might go there. Let's see, probably wouldn't be SDA Pioneer. Object lesson, potentially. So let's do a little doubling up on those. All right, and the next one, requirement number 3. Do 4 of the following and refer to the Adventist Youth for Better Living Manual for details. Again, we've gone over the baptismal vows. And every time someone's baptized, we get to hear them again and renew the commitments. So if you feel so inclined, be my guest. Number 4, know and explain. So we're going to dig into this a little bit because not everyone can, off the top of their head, give all of these answers. So the reason behind the warning on the cigarette packet. Warning, smoke is a health hazard. Anybody tell me what the reasoning is behind that? Right, it is a law. So it is one of the laws that, in my opinion, is unnecessary. So natural selection would take place if some laws weren't there, like caution, coffee is hot. You know, it's just one of those laws. So Yes, it's lung disease, cancers, all other kinds of problems. That is why the warning is on the packet, and it is by law, because if it wasn't regulated, they wouldn't have it on there. So what are 7 ingredients of tobacco smoke? Well, there's nicotine. That is a stimulant. Now, of course, I went through and did the very, very, very short, condensed, what is it? So sometimes one word, sometimes 2. And like with arsenic, it's it's a smashed word, I can't remember what, compound word, and then a second word. So it's a semi-metallic acid. Formaldehyde is a flammable gas. Carbon monoxide is a gas. Anybody tell me what is the biggest carbon monoxide producer? Your car. Cyanide is a poison. Tanya, will you help me with the pronunciation of that? Phenylbenzophrine. Close enough for me. That is a carcinogen. And ammonia is another gas. And in liquid form is used as a cleaner. It's also smelling salts. So those are the 7 ingredients in tobacco smoke. Lovely, isn't it? Now you know why it stinks so bad. All right. What is emphysema? Well, it's a lung disease. Tanya, can you help me with the next one? Cirrhosis, is that what it is? Okay, cirrhosis. That is a scarring of the liver. And we all know what addiction is. And the effects of tobacco, alcohol, drugs on pregnancy. I could have probably put up another 17 slides just in that. But we know about fetal alcohol syndrome. We know about the what was the one with tobacco? It was bleeding, some sort of like uncontrolled bleeding during pregnancy or something. I read through them and I tried to get some highlights, but I was kind of tired when I read through them. So, but there is a lot of research going into when people use 2 or even 3 of these issues, and they're trying to research what happens when you end up using all 3. We have a family member who her mother was on everything, and she is not really messed up, but she has a very tough time with social situations. She's not technically autistic, but she is very high-strung, she looks normal, but she's really messed up in the head. So, and it doesn't help that we have social media, and she's all over social media, and yeah, so. Mm-hmm. Worst case was a feeding tube. No arms, no legs in the worst case. Oh. Right. Oh yeah, it would. I don't know how someone does that when pregnant. It just, granted, I'm not a woman. I don't know that whole side of things. Exactly. And so there are a lot of studies still being done. The biggest roadblock to the studies that they're finding is honesty. People being honest that they're doing all these things when they're pregnant. And were they doing these things, while they were pregnant and didn't know they were pregnant? What effect is that having on the kid? Did they stop? And so there's a lot of roadblocks to the effects of using all the problematic issues stuff there. But you can go ahead and look up the issues, but we all know that those three things are very, very hard on infants. And they're actually really hard on the mothers too. So number 5 is read the chapter, Stimulants and Narcotics in Ministry of Healing. Be able to discuss briefly or provide a written summary, approximately 2 or 3 paragraphs in length. Again, we did all that with the baptismal studies. Number 6, after studying the following materials, list 3 things that contribute to temperance and good health, other than abstaining from that which is harmful. I think that should have quotes on it. Back to the baptismal vows. And the 7th one, last one. Discuss the following situations and role play what you would do if. This is obviously written for kids. We could have fun and do a bunch of role plays. I'm seeing a couple of faces going, no, please, no, please. So we won't. But I encourage you to do it with your Pathfinders. Okay? Get them involved, get them to do it. You're the instructor, you get credit, they do the acting. Work with your Pathfinders. All right, that's the end of temperance. So, back to our lovely calendar that Jean-Paul has made for us. I love this thing. You want to know what honors you've done? There they are. So, next month, March, is going to be the other 8 seminars. I am in a bit of a spot with that. Pastor Harris doesn't have any of them. I get to write them and get them approved and put them in an order. So there will be an email coming out telling you which ones will be on which days, and I will be getting all that put together. So we get to make it happen. Yes, Sharon? Yes. So the reason we were okay with doing that even during the PBE is because it's taking place in Cedar Lake. So the Pathfinders can go to that. I don't know if anybody here has Pathfinders going to that and wants to attend, but that's also why we live stream. So you can go back and watch it later. As far as getting things signed off and having to have 4 in person, again, I don't know of anybody here that has Pathfinders going that they need to attend. So I know Brian and Roseanne are taking Central because they passed the first level. They're going on. So they won't be here, but Brandon and I will be here. So we're going to be doing that next weekend. And then after that is April. Yep, April is Peacemaker. In May, we're doing first aid and CPR. We have someone from the church here who has all the CPR dummies and everything, and this is going to be certified ready stuff. So you can renew your certification if you need to. If not, you don't have to be here. That's the beauty of this program. So the one I really want to talk about is that camp out in June. As much as I love camping and would love to take everybody camping, that's June. That's camp meeting month. That's a lot to put on everybody. Stop it. And so what I'm going to do is that Sabbath, I would like to be able to meet here if you want to, if you need any of these. If not, don't worry about it. But we're going to go through the written portion of these in the afternoon after potluck. And then in the evening, if anybody needs to practice skills, we can go out back, we can get a fire ring and do what we need to do here as just doing the skills. Since most of us, everybody here looking around, has gone on campouts. You've done pretty much everything. It's hard to, I don't think anybody doesn't have all 4 camping skills honors here. So you don't have to be here for that. I will be going over that camp safety one. If you want to chime in, like the live stream, you want to just watch that. I don't know what all is entailed with that yet. It was kind of added on later. And then we have July and August. Those are going to be ideally low-key months. That's everyone's preparing for Wyoming. That is a never-ending preparation process that everyone's getting stressed about. So let's essentially take those 2 months off. In June at camp meeting, we want to have our portfolios done and get them to Harris, find him while you're there. You'll have a week to do it. Find Harris, find one of the area coordinators, get them to look over your portfolio and sign it off. I'm going to talk to Pastor Harris and see if he can designate a couple of time slots that says, hey, I'm going to be here at this time. If you have a portfolio you need signed, let's get it signed. Well, if I can get him to agree to that and set up a time, I'll have him announce it, or I'll announce it, but we'll have it announced at the fair. That way, everyone knows he's going to be there at what time and when he's going to be available. Then we need to have that done so we can get our names on the list for the Michigan Master Guide investiture there. If you don't want to have your investiture at the World Camporee and you want to have it in your home church, that is totally okay. Let the conference know for your investiture that you're going to be doing your Master Guide investiture there. If you want me there, that's fine. I'm more than happy to make the trip and we'll get there. So by then we'll be done with the Master Guide portfolio program. You'll have your little pin, your scarf. Then we go into what I call continuing ed, okay? So in September, we're gonna do a backpacking trip. I haven't nailed down a place yet, but I love the idea of going to AuSable. Park the cars in the main auditorium parking lot and start backpacking and go out on orientation on what they call land nav. And you go out and around, you find a bunch of different spots, go around to the north side of the lake, and that's where we are for pretty much Friday night, Saturday, do a couple of day hikes, do some wild edible plants, do some of that stuff. And then I would like to work on the pioneering honor, which is very involved. So that's to be determined. But then we will backpack the rest of the trip back around to the parking lots and be done for the weekend. So that's the plan for that weekend. And then we have 2 sessions of things I wish I knew when I became a director. That will be more networking. So I'll tell you some of the things I did. Brandon will be able to tell some of the things he did. And then we're opening it up to the floor for directors to say, hey, this is a problem I ran into. So I'm from a very small church that did not support Pathfinders. I had to fight and fight for every penny. And then they questioned everything I did on top of that. So I have a lot different situation than what Brandon has here at Central, which is different from what you have. And so we are all going to have different experiences that we can share and learn from each other. And then we're going to do a very comprehensive look at the TLT program. And that will be in December. And then in January, I'd like to have a big graduation celebration for ending of the 18-month program. So that is what we have coming up, and that is all I have. Thank you for joining. Thank you. Signing. I can't run away yet. No, I'm just, yes, I have a couple answers.